Hey, Smart Chicks. It's Carol Maloney Scott with the Smart Chicks Speaker Series. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Catarina Monge. Am I saying that right?
Monge.
Monge. Catarina Monge. See, I should have, here's marked my imperfect action because I did not figure out how to pronounce the woman's name before I announced her because all the things. So we're talking about that today. That's good. That's good. So, I'm very happy to have Catarina here with us today. I always say when I get into certain types of conversations in my live streams and in the trainings I do, a lot of times once I kind of veer into, stuff that feels a little mental health-ish, I always throw out that caveat, but I'm not a therapist because, I not only legally am I not a therapist, but I mean, I want to make sure that I always throw that out there and that people aren't using me as a therapist because that's wrong. But I was very excited because Catarina really is a therapist. so she can actually say she is one and we can listen to her now. So I'm super excited. Catarina, if you could just tell us a little bit about you and your background and also what you're doing to pivot in your career right now and share that with us, I'd appreciate that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's sort of a pleasure to be part of the group now. I am a clinical psychologist. I've been a therapist for about 13, 14 years. Most of my work has really been in private practice, working with, individuals such as yourself and myself, people who are kind of just struggling a little bit in life, higher functioning individuals struggling a little bit in life, whether it's with relationships, with work, with kids, families, and all that. So, most of my work has been in private practice for the last going on 14 years. I recently did pivot a little bit, sort of added on to, the already 1,000 sort of responsibilities and duties that I have. And I started sort of my own coaching business on the side as well. And my focus in coaching kind of looks a little bit like, kind of my therapy and what I do. But my goal there is to really help women, such as yourself, myself, women, female entrepreneurs, looking to kind of also pivot in their new, sort of in their roles in life, and kind of working with them on the challenges that they may face, kind of managing all these roles and managing all these new responsibilities and figuring out where they're stuck in life, and kind of stuck in their thought process, stuck in their actions and behaviors, that things that are kind of preventing them from finding the goals and success that they are looking for. So yeah, I've become a success mindset coach within the last year as well.
Awesome. So, and I think that there are so many people that do that type of work. I see so many of them in the coaching space since I've joined the coaching space, especially on Facebook. And there's so many people doing that type of work who really are not qualified to do that type of work. So when you told me that you were a therapist doing that, honestly, one of the reasons that I didn't even go into, I could have gone more the life coaching route, because I really feel like I do have a lot of wisdom to share and a lot that I would be able to help women with in that realm. But I just really felt like that wasn't really where my area of expertise was. So I like the fact that, really that you are a therapist, and that you come with those types of credentials to doing that coaching work. I love to see people who actually, and the same thing with my field, I was a recruiter for 20 years. I have a master's degree in career development. I got a career coaching certification, so there's people like saying that they're career coaches who have absolutely no background or training. It's the same thing. So I just like to see people who have some credentials coming forward to do things. Because I really think it does matter, that people really know what they're doing. So the current situation of mental health right now is not good. And we all know that, right? So, I really think that I say there's mental health challenges, but I really think many people are saying that there's a mental health crisis right now with the pandemic. And, we're about 6 months into the situation almost here in the US. And it's really, really getting very stressful for people. I'm finding with my clients just so many various stages of, these stages of grief and stages of frustration and just stages
Yeah.
of, just, and I feel it myself, and personally, and then I also take on the feelings of, the people that I'm working with. So it's a lot of stress right now. And it's really affecting my clients tremendously, most of whom are really job seekers right now because they're either unemployed, unhappily employed, or underemployed, and they're trying to figure this out with all of these added stressors at the same time. So what are you seeing with your clients right now? I guess both in your coaching practice and in your therapy practice, like
Yeah.
along those lines.
It's been a really interesting ride in the last like 5 to 6 months. Initially it was really interesting because I saw almost a complete drop off when we transitioned into the virtual space, right? Into when we transitioned into quarantine and lockdown. My practice was cut in half. So yeah, it was kind of it was such a drastic kind of move. But I got it. Like I totally understood. And I think a lot of us at that point were in survival mode, right? I mean, it was not just us coming into our space, our home space, trying to kind of manage work. It was families with kids coming in and no school, no outlet. So it was hard at that time for people to find a space in their home to not only have like a therapy session, but to even have the time to process what we were going through, and what we were dealing with. And so like survival skills kicked in and priorities shifted. So for the first couple months, I mean, I was barely part-time working at home. And really, and I've spoken a lot with a lot of different colleagues of mine and friends who are therapists in the field. The last 4 to 6 weeks have been bananas. The last 4 to 6 weeks have really been sort of a sign, I think, of things to come. Right now, I am fully booked. There's, barely time to think in terms of, kind of going from one session to the next, because people are really now struggling. Like the reality of it has hit. The reality of the situation is here. Because when we went into quarantine, it was like, okay, maybe 2 weeks, right? Maybe 3 weeks to a month, and then we'll kind of go back to normal. And now we're here. We're here to stay for quite a bit of time, and so priorities have shifted in people again. And as we are looking at the long term, people are focused more again on like what they're going through. So in terms of mental health and what are the issues that people are facing, I think it's the same. It's the same as it was pre-COVID. Relationship dynamics, dissatisfaction, anxiety, depression. It's just on a slightly higher level, right? Because there's still no personal space. There's still no physical or emotional space to really fully process that. And then that added stressor of like still what we're going through 6 months later.
Right. It's pretty horrifying. And it's interesting what you said. And it really actually now makes me feel better because I'll tell you what, because it's all about making me feel better, right? That's the only reason I bring speakers on. No, I'm kidding. So what I really found interesting about what you just said is that, so when this first hit in the middle of March, we went into quarantine. Yes, of course, everybody, of course, yes, my business took a big hit, right? Because people weren't wanting to pay for career coaching. They were going into survival mode. And what happened was I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn and I was reaching out to, prospective clients and things. And I actually had people who were like nasty to me, telling me, why are you asking me to do career coaching? I'm not looking for a job right now. There's a pandemic. And I thought to myself, yeah, if you don't see how those are going to correlate, okay,
Right.
and this was really early on, and then of course everybody got laid off, I mean, this huge massive unemployment thing happened. But I think people still were very much, in that fear space. They were very much in that, I hope this is just going to go away soon space. They were also dealing with, as you said, the kids home and the spouses home and the working from home and just the entire upheaval of their lives, right? And they were But what I find interesting is like I came to understand like how that was affecting my business, I think, and I realized, okay, that's a thing. And I get that people don't want to invest in one-on-one coaching right now. They're worried about their jobs, they're worried about their money, so that was why I started my membership program, Career Happiness Studio, because I wanted to figure out a low cost way to help as many women as possible, and kind of pivot what I was doing. So that was kind of why I did that. But what I find so interesting is that I would not have thought, but now I get it because of the privacy thing and just the whole overwhelm thing, why people would not. I figured everybody stopped coming to me and they were all going to you. Like I figured like the mental health professionals, they must be so busy that, they don't know what to do with themselves. Because I figured, that's where people are going now. That's where they're spending these dollars and this time that they might have spent on working with someone like me, and they're because they're now on that whole, Maslow's chart of hierarchy of needs. They've gone down on the hierarchy, right? It's a lower level need they need to fill now before they can fulfill this, this career need, even though the career need is obviously very much tied to survival. A lot of people really don't get that. I always talk about how like your career finances your life. So it is pretty important to spend time and money on working on that. But a lot of people don't see that and they immediately go into panic mode and they go into like hoarding mode. They don't want to spend any money. They don't want to spend any time. But I can't believe they did that with therapy. So with a lot of my clients, I'm seeing with the job search, because you're right, now it's like reality is starting to set in, and I think people are starting to realize, okay, I really need help, and that's why they're going to you. That's why they're realizing that, my group is growing so fast because people are realizing I better get some help with this career thing too. I need all the help now, right? But one of the things I really see a couple of things that I really see affecting the women really badly right now as it relates to their job search is this whole thing is just killing their confidence. Their confidence is, and I think women struggle with their confidence more than men, it seems, in general when it comes to stuff like this. And at least that's what I see with the people that come to me. For career stuff anyway. And so so as you said, these are the same problems they had before, right? I already had tons of women struggling with their confidence coming to me, but now it's exacerbated, and it's like, it's loss of identity, it's hopeless feelings, it's, I don't know, people coming to me who've been in, like the hospitality industry for 25 years, and now that industry basically has gone away overnight, and they have to reinvent themselves. So what are some things, the rejection, they're applying for all these different jobs and they're getting rejected, so they have money fears, they have rejection, they have confidence issues, they just have so many things that these emotions are beating them down, and it's making that job search even harder. Like it's already harder because of the COVID situation, because there's less opportunities, there's more competition, and now there's more mental health issues on top of that. So are there any thoughts, tips, strategies, anything that you could share that might help some of these women to kind of dig themselves out of this emotional hole in order to get the energy and the confidence to pursue this? And because it's a long haul, right? It already takes a while to find a job. Now it's going to take longer. We have to be able to maintain and not hide under our bed, because that's what I feel like doing sometimes. Just like, I just want to get under my bed like my dog does when it lightnings and thunders until this is over.
Well, and so there's a few things that I'll speak to that, to what you said. And there are a few key points here. The first thing I'll say though is in my clients, I don't know, you know how like you have certain things that you say over and over, they're like your mantras, right?
Yes.
To people. So one of the things that people hear from me all the time is you're stronger than what you feel like you are in the moment. Right. And so in the moment where there is this struggle, there is this emotional struggle, or, just anything really, whether it's career, whether it's relationship, it's important to remember that you are stronger than that moment. Okay. And so when I say that, usually it's followed by, okay, let's look at situations that have been similar in your life. Where have you struggled previously in your life where you have felt hopeless, helpless? And how did you make it out of there? right? And so, part of what I do, and part of sort of that whole shift in mindset, is looking not so much at the emotion, because I know what the emotion is, right? The emotion is sadness, frustration, anger. Like, those are such common emotions. And what you said about men and women is so very true. Men are very like, okay, so I'm generalizing completely, right? But typically, men typically are cognitive beings, right? They function from up here, and they manage it from up here. And for a lot of women, we are emotional beings, right? And so when we experience something, it's not through thought, it's through emotion, right? And when we have a negative emotion, we kind of like to sit in it to some degree, right? And it's okay. It's okay to sit in sadness. It's okay to sit in frustration. It's not okay to live there, obviously, because what that does is it prevents action, and it prevents us from taking action, and kind of feeling better overall. So a lot of the work that I do is, working on shifting that mindset of like, I need to feel this, versus, into a mindset of like, okay, I need to think through this. I need to create action. I need to create steps for myself. And so, in a situation that we have right now and that we're living through right now, I think it's easy to sit in the emotion part of it. Why? Because there's fear, right? And fear is like the ultimate like paralyzer, right? So one of the things that I typically say, and people don't like, is embrace the fear. Embrace the fear. What are you afraid of? What's the worst possible outcome that could happen here, right? And we kind of go through layers of the worst possible outcome. And it's important to look at that as triggering as that may be. It is important to kind of look through the worst possible outcome, because when we do that, then we create an ability to sort of like, we create an ability to develop an action plan. Okay, well, if this happens, then I need to do this, right? If this happens, then I need to do that. And when we have options to sort of act upon, we have options to think differently. We have options to feel differently, and we're not stuck anymore.
Right. So a couple of things that really come to mind for me with that is, so there's a book, and I know you know this book, but not everyone does. There was a book I was given, I think, God, it was like the early to mid 90s, and it might have already been old then, I can't remember, but Dr. Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That was a really, really monumental book for me at the time when I read it, because I was one of those people, and I was probably in my I was probably in my late 20s when someone gave me this book, and I was recommending to a lot of the women in my group to read that book, even though it's old. I think it's a classic, because that's really the whole point of that book is, yes, you're going to have fear, you're going to have these bad emotions, but you know what, that can't be the excuse for not doing something, for not taking action, because what is the alternative? Because the alternative sucks. Like, the staying stuck and then not doing anything, that really sucks, right? Like, if it currently sucks, you have to do something, and I have so many people asking me things like, well, if I work with you, or I join your group or whatever, how long is it going to take, for me to get a job? Well, obviously I can't tell you that, because many factors are out of my control, including what are you going to do the work? What are you are the driver of that, really, right? But I always say back, well, I don't know, but how long is it going to take if you don't get help? How long is it going to take if you stay in this place where you really currently still are? And whether that is mental health help, or it is career coaching help, or it's whatever your problem is, right? How long are you going to stay stuck where you are, and how long are you going to stay in that uncomfortable place? And I think that, it's paralyzing. I think that's the word. There's a lot of people right now, I think, that I talk to, that the reason they're not getting the help they need or joining or whatever is because they are paralyzed. They can't make a move, or they're afraid to make a wrong move. They're just afraid to do anything. And, action, I mean, at least I've always found personally for myself, action begets more action. Once you get that ball rolling down the hill, it starts to go. But, if you're unwilling to let it start to go down the hill, then it's not. And the other thing you said that I love is just this whole concept of, you are stronger. Like, think about all the times that you had to overcome something. And especially those women who are, you know, a little bit older, right? You know, maybe if you're super young, maybe if you're 22 and you just graduated from college and you had really great parents and a pretty easy life thus far, this is the first thing that has been like the big whammy for you. Although obviously a lot of young people have also had to overcome many things, right?
Yeah.
And I think they don't even think about it that way. They just need to think about their lives in a different way, put a different frame on it, you know, and think, you know, you have overcome things, you know, even just going through puberty and becoming, you know, a teenager and going through just, you know, going from middle school to high school, from high school to college, to, right, you know, to getting through college, all the things that happen there. Everybody has gone through things that they've had to be strong, right, to get through. And right, how did you get through that? You know, and you will get through this too. But it's that taking that first baby step action sometimes. I think that's so difficult. One term that we hear so often, and I'm almost sick of hearing it because I never like cliche type terms that get to be super popular in any genre of work, in any area of work. I hate it, right? So I hated all the business speak when I was in the business world, you know, and you know, all the stupid things people say, you know, that the cliche is, you know, oh, I'll circle back around, and, you know, we're in the weeds, and all that stupid crap. I hated all of it. I never said any of it. But so the buzzword in your field, and really somewhat in my field, is this whole self-care thing, right? So I'm constantly having people constantly telling me about this. I need to do this self-care thing, right? And I am terrible at self-care because I am very much a type A personality. I also got a little bit of the martyr syndrome woman thing from my mother and my grandmother, very much the martyr syndrome, you know, the mother martyr syndrome. So I have that. I have the type A personality. My father was a maniac, is a maniac with getting things done. So I was brought up by people who were all about, if you're not super productive, you are a lazy bum. And you know what I mean? And you are just a loser. Like, if you're not super productive and you are not getting things done and you're not successful, like, you're not, you know, you better get it together, right? So, like the tough love type of. So I wasn't really taught self-care growing up. Like, no, like, you know, and I guess my mother and my grandmother did do things for themselves, but I was never encouraged in that regard. You know, like, oh, you know, you need to slow down, or you need to do less, or you need to, you know, relax a little. I was never taught that. So this self-care thing, I'm sick of hearing about it. So, and I think a lot of people are, and I know what it means is that we do need to slow down. We do need to do things to nurture ourselves, our minds, and our bodies. We do need to take care of ourselves, right? Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't show up to take care of others, and we can't show up to serve our clients or our customers or whoever we serve, right? So I know that intellectually, but I guess I just feel like a lot of people roll their eyes when they hear self-care because they just think it means like taking a bubble bath or getting a massage. Now, let me tell you, no one likes taking a bubble bath or getting a massage more than I do. But I feel like right now we're kind of in a code blue type situation, and that the bubble bath and the massage are not really cutting it for the level. Also, who has time for that? Especially, or, you know, you go to get a massage, you have to wear a mask. You want to do a bubble bath, you have kids knocking on the door screaming, mommy, we have our homework to do, you know, whatever. So it's not ideal to even do those that, you know. So what are some, I guess, thoughts or suggestions, both from a high level, I guess, at, you know, a mental health level, but like a practical level as well, that women can really try to think about how to incorporate this self-care thing into their lives so that they can be seriously a little bit more gentle with themselves while they're having this like paralysis attack about all these bad emotions? How can they start to do some things that replace the bad emotions with good emotions? And I'm not even talking about by doing the action on the job search. I'm just talking about as a human, like things they can do to just feel a little better in the moment.
Okay. So a couple things, and I did roll my eyes at self-care when you
because who wants to hear that anymore? Like, it's a nightmare.
Well, because I mean, when you look, you know, when you kind of search it up or Google it or what have you, I mean, you generally, regardless of where you're reading this information, people are talking about the same thing, and there's validity to that, right? So there's validity in the, exercising, there's validity in, maintaining proper nutrition and diet, there's validity in getting a good night's sleep, which by the way is huge in my world. Sleep is for sure huge, and something that has definitely been impacted through COVID. But these like strategies are so important, to sort of implement in your life. So yes, there's that kind of level of self-care, right? I want you to be exercising. I want you to be connecting with your girlfriends and talking and socializing and, and having outlets outside your home. I want you to work on your relationship with your spouse or your significant other. I want you to take that bubble bath, right? Have your spouse take care of the kids and you jump in the like, I want you to do those basic self-care strategies. But in my world, we talk about higher order self-care strategies.
Okay.
And what that means is that we, it's about the self, right? It's about the self. It's not about what we, strategies and tactical things. It's about looking at the self. Who are you, right? And how do you function? And how do you interact in your life? How do you interact with people? Where are the pitfalls that you typically find yourself in, right? So my higher order of self-care really looks at like our thought patterns, our emotional patterns, and kind of addressing what works and what doesn't work, right? Because regardless of whatever like lower level self-care strategy you use, if you don't address those things, they're not going to touch it, right? Those lower levels aren't going to touch it. And what they'll do is they'll give you a break from that feeling in the moment, but they're not going to touch the pattern of why you keep going back there, right? So in my in my work and looking at higher order like self-care strategies, we definitely, and again, I love emotions, I love feelings, but I look at the thought patterns, I look at the actions, I look at the the behavior patterns, and we look at shifting those. We look at growth, right? We look at self-growth as a self-care strategy, because then you're going to put things in different priorities in your life. And that will help you feel better. That will help you think better. That will help you interact, in your world on a completely different level.
Yeah. I even think like when you're talking about like self, I think even when people like do something, maybe learn something new, right? Or, read about something new, take a class about something, get themselves involved in a group of people that are learning about something or discussing something that is, a higher, like you said, a higher order, a higher level thinking, getting out of your head, your own stuff. The sleeping thing is a disaster. And I think that is really, and it's funny that you said like, yeah, you have to work on like the thought patterns and like the patterns, because if you don't break the patterns, I mean, there have been many times I've been so freaking stressed out. I'm a high strung person. I'm sure you can tell that just by talking to me. And this is the calmest I've been in my entire life. So you can only imagine what I was like in my late 20s when that book was given to me. But I was a maniac. But I have taken a bubble bath and been too stressed to enjoy the bubble bath. I have gone for a massage and been too stressed to enjoy the massage, meaning I couldn't shut my thoughts off enough. And I've done a lot of meditation. I've been doing meditation for like 20 years. And, I don't do it enough, of course, but, I've been doing a lot of things like that. And I find that those types of things are like that, to me, that's higher order. Like that's a higher order thing too, because it helps to break some of that thought pattern, it helps to interrupt that in a more meaningful way than just, watching a mindless TV show or just, taking a break or whatever. I think a lot of people think they're taking a break, and they're giving their mind a rest, but all you're really doing is refocusing on something that mindless, and you're not really, but it's not, it's like you said, it's in the moment, just for the moment you laughed at that movie and that's nice. And it gave you a little relief. So that's nice, but it has no sticking power, right? As you said, it has no staying power. So I think that, a practice of something that, and it really helps you on a regular basis that is more positive, is helpful. Also, I think a lot of people right now are really suffering with this whole, just the lack of socialization, lack of normal socialization. There are some people who are going out and doing socializing and they don't care about the virus and they're not wearing masks and they're spreading the virus, and just love those people. But, so that's happening. But the majority of people, who are socially responsible and also just personally responsible still are doing a lot of social distancing, and they are not visiting family. They are not, they are not going out to, dinner and to see bands and to do, all the things. Like my husband and I did so many things that we don't do anymore. And it's horrible. Like it really is. It's real. Like you're already cooped up with your people in the house. And then you can't even go anywhere with your people and do anything fun. So like there's just no fun anymore. Like fun
Yeah.
is like canceled. And I know a lot of parents are trying really hard with their kids to like do more activities with them and do more fun things. But as far as grown-up fun, I mean, we have to be pretty creative, right? And I think people are just tired of not being able to get out. So what are your thoughts? And again, I realize that you are not a public health official and you're not going to speak in that capacity, but what are your thoughts as far as, people being still, following the social distancing guidelines, following, the recommendations that are in place in the state that they're in, and that the government has laid out for them, and that doctors are laying out for them. What do you think people really should be trying to do right now as far as balancing that? Because I think that we hear a lot of people saying that the reason people are not following social distancing or they're not taking the virus as seriously anymore is because it's like, what is the bigger risk, that the suicide rate is going up or that the COVID cases are going up? Because a lot of people will make that argument. Now, some people make that argument just because they're not in any way, shape, or form going to commit suicide, or they're just selfish and they want to go out and party. They're using that as an excuse. But there definitely is an uptick, I'm sure, in mental health issues, period, and in pain that people are experiencing. So those that are feeling that pain and that pain is blocking them from being able to take that action, are there things that those people like that you would recommend? Like, what would you recommend to a client if they said, hey, I'm afraid to go out because of the virus, but I'm also afraid to not go out or engage with my friends or whatever because I'm losing my mind?
So, this is a tough one, right? Because we don't have, like, we're so new into this that there's no guidebook for anything at this point. And so, we're kind of, as mental health professionals, kind of working through different strategies with people. And, not to say that we're like throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, but, this is definitely a new place for us to be in, and recommendations look very different. I tend to also work with a lot of adolescent girls.
Okay.
And so like my teenagers right now are really struggling, especially like those high school girls. They're really struggling because that socialization has been just wiped out. And so what I do is I work with parents and even adults that I work with, like find a small group, right? Find a small group of friends, and like you all make that commitment. Like we are socially distancing from everyone but ourselves, right? And so it creates an opportunity at least for that social interaction because it is needed. Not just for someone that's really struggling with their mental health and kind of is worried about sort of their own sense of safety, but just for other people who are, in the midst of all this kind of struggling with, that the lack of like a normalcy in their lives. So, that's definitely been the one that I've been kind of working through recommendations. And I'm really cautious with it just because, again, I'm not like, right. But yeah, so finding a group and committing to sort of that group, so that there is that ability to connect. And also, looking at your pain point, right? Looking at your pain points of like how much more I can take of being socially distant, right? And of isolating or quarantined or what have you. There are people that I work with who are, complete introverts, and they're loving this, right? They're like absolutely loving this, and they don't want to go out, and they're okay. But you have to look at your pain point. And so working with friends, working with people around you. So that's been the biggest one, is just kind of having that group, having your group to go to.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I'm glad that you said that, because I think, and it's interesting because my husband and I have really been very, very cautious. My husband's probably even more cautious than I am about the whole thing. And so we've been very cautious. I mean, we've really done very little, and I just a couple of weeks ago started having like outdoor lunches with one girlfriend of mine who I know and her and her husband are also taking this very seriously. They have no kids at home, it's just them. And I know they're taking it very seriously. And I said to myself, and of course my husband said, oh, well, have they been staying home? Blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want me to go near anyone. And I said, well, yes, I know they have. I said, we went to an outdoor place to eat, and she was like sanitizing everything. Like she was like spraying me. Like she was just like, she was crazy. She was like, do you want more hand sanitizer? Do you want more? She's like, I'm not eating here again because I didn't see anybody clean the table. I got here early to see if anybody was cleaning, So she's really fanatical. So we're going to go have, I just was texting her right before I got on this call. We're going to go do an outdoor dinner, with the four of us. And we haven't done that in 6 months, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. It's ridiculous because I really need, this Zoom thing, the fact that we have this, the fact that this is happening in a time in our lives when we have this technology is tremendous. That's something your teenage girls don't realize, like what this would have been like if this happened when I was in high school. Like, I don't even want to think about it. The whole world would have fallen apart. But it feels like it is now, but I can't even imagine without having this technology, right? Yeah, having this technology. So, but you know what? I mean, between you and me and everybody watching this, I am sick of this technology. Like, I am really starting to say, you know what? This is fun and all, but I'm sick of it, and I want to see people in person. And honestly, I can't even wait until I can start to do some in-person things like with my business, like actually for local women, or even do like a retreat or something, like a destination retreat once we can travel again and have people come to it, a conference like of some sort, because I mean, and I am an extrovert, but I've worked from home for 11 years. I worked from home in my corporate career for 10 years before I quit my job to do this full time. So I've been an extrovert dealing with working from home for a long time, but the way I dealt with that was I used to go out a lot. I drove my husband crazy because he worked in an office, and he would come home and I would be like, let's go out, let's go out, let's go out. And he would be like, oh my God, I just got home, but I wanted to turn around and go out immediately. I was the life of the party. And now, like, I feel like I've gotten so used to this that yeah, it's kind of like depressing. I've gotten depressed about it, like, and I don't even bother trying to figure out how to do it. It's like I've just given up. Like, I can't do a thing anymore. Like, I can't do anything anymore, so I don't care. I'm just gonna suffer, But I realized, no, I need to take some action. Yeah, and look for people who I know I can trust, and take that very, very small risk, right, of eating dinner with them outside. In this weather that we have here in Virginia. I mean, we can do that probably until, November here in Virginia,
Sure. Yeah. And it, there's like a global thing to it, right? So it's not just like, I miss my friends, I miss the socialization aspect of that, but like work, right? And just the connections that you build at work. As a therapist, when I go into the office, my door is shut for 45, 50 minutes at a time, but I loved that, like, that 5-10 minute gap that I had where I could pop into my friend's, office and just chit chat for a little bit. That no longer exists, and so there is this sort of sense of loss of everything that we're kind of dealing with. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, if you can have that, that level of socialization in a safe and comfortable way with people that you trust, I think it again, look at your pain points. Look at your pain points.
There's one more thing I wanted to bring up about that actually is not on my list, but it just kind of comes to mind. And, that is that I think I feel this way a lot, and I hear this from my clients a lot. And I think because there's this very bad thing that's wrong, right? The pandemic is a bad thing, and it's a bad thing for everybody. There's a lot of people suffering. There's a lot of people suffering much worse than you and I and a lot of these people in my group, right? There's people who are sick. There's people who have loved ones who are sick. There's people who've lost loved ones. There are people who are really in terrible financial straits, really painful situations, right? I think there's a guilt factor that a lot of people feel like because it's not as bad for them, right? So they feel guilty. It's almost like a survivor guilt type thing, you know, like I feel bad because yes, it's bad for me and I'm having a woe is me moment because I can't go out and see my favorite bands on Friday night anymore. But guess what? There's some people that can't feed their children. So I shouldn't be whining about my problem, you know, so there's a guilt thing. And then I think also there's this concept that people have that they can't, they're stuck in that paralysis because everything's bad. And, you know, a lot of times I will tell people it's okay. And I say it really for myself as well. It's okay to feel good when things are bad, meaning it's okay to find a good feeling. Like you may not have an overall good feeling and you may not have solved the whole problem, but like,
Yeah.
you know, it's almost like they put being happy on hold or having any enjoyment on hold. And I feel like I've done that somewhat even, you know, like, okay, until I help everybody get a job, I can't do anything fun. I have to work all the time. I have to go at it, you know, and I think a lot of people feel that way with looking for a job. You know, I don't have a job yet. I can't be fooling around. I got to just get a job. I can't take a day off from job searching to do something enjoyable. But obviously, if we do that, you know, and I guess it kind of does go along with the whole higher level self-care thing, but if we do that, it actually raises our vibration and makes us feel better. And then probably we would be more successful with the job search, you know? So any thoughts on any of that?
I think it's definitely so critical and important to find, like, and this is in any situation, right? To sort of find that silver lining, to find that place of happiness. Because if we, again, fall into that emotion and fall into that fear, then that equates to paralysis. And then what do we do? Right. And so it is important to hold on to a bit of that happiness, you know, and as it relates to maybe that survivor's guilt kind of concept, you know, if you are in a working, like if you're in a helping position, regardless of what it is, you're not going to be much of a helper if you're not able to, again, that self-care, being able to sort of take care of yourself so that you are there for others. You know, there's definitely, you know, it's definitely important, especially like as people are kind of going through that job search and maybe the frustration of the job search, or, you know, maybe they have, you know, they have a business and it's not doing very well. You know, and so these shoulds and these what ifs and these like a lot of negative thinking, like all that negative thinking starts to kind of be redundant, and, you know, people start focusing more on that. You know, we need a break from that, just like with anything else, you know, and so if there's no boundary there, it bleeds into every aspect of your life, right? Right.
Yes.
Your self-concept, your self-image, you know, your relationships, you know, friends, loved ones, you know, whomever. So we have to look at creating boundaries, you know, that's number one. With anything though, you know, with COVID, outside of COVID, to be able to sort of create some boundaries so that you are able to enjoy different aspects of your life, especially when there's like an aspect of it that you can't really enjoy right now, or that's frustrating or that you're stuck in. You need to have, you know, you need to protect the other, you know, sort of the other areas in your life.
Yeah, I like the word protect. And I think because so many people are working from home in less than ideal circumstances, and even some who are just working from home alone or working from home and there are no little kids around or whatever, it's very easy for work to bleed into your whole life also because there's no, you know, if you're not used to working from home, you're not used to closing this door. You know, I work in here. If I close this door and I go downstairs, work is over, you know, and I was like that all the years that I worked in the corporate world. Like I didn't do that. Like, because and there were times when I did it, but I would not have been, you cannot be successful long-term working from home, especially for someone else, but even for yourself, it may be even worse for yourself. You know, if you don't set some boundaries, right? And you don't, so I think boundaries, are also a big issue right now. So for all the people out there, Catarina, that really know that they need help, whether they need help with their careers and they, you know, should come work with me or someone like me, or they have mental health challenges and issues that they really need a therapist for and they should work with someone like you. How can somebody, like, where should somebody go, I guess, to, because I think a lot of people, especially with therapy, they're very overwhelmed. You know, do I call my EAP, you know, my employee assistance program at work? Do I go to a private therapist? Do I see if my insurance covers it? Do I go to a local, do I try to get some help for free? Where is free help, in my community, is there a hotline? Is there, like,
Yeah.
what are some steps that somebody can take, I guess, to decide or figure out like where to go to get help, or who is the right person, like even like the right credentials? Like I think a lot of people just don't know. They know they need somebody, but they don't even know what that person is. Is it a therapist? Is it a psychologist? Is it a psychiatrist? Like, and where are they? How do I find them?
Well, and the field is so broad in many
Right.
ways. Yeah. The first thing I would do is talk with anyone that you know that may be seeing a therapist. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, kind of get an insider's tip in a way. I've had so many of my own referrals come from like clients or people that have known me. And so, yeah, the first thing is maybe reach out to some people in your life that you trust, that, has sought out, mental health or what have you. So getting that, like firsthand information is important. A lot of times it's through insurance, right? So a lot of private practitioners take insurance, a lot don't. I've recently had a lot of people come through also through insurance. So they look at a bunch of different profiles through their company, and kind of reach out. So, and then that way who takes your insurance. Obviously a Google search of people in your area, and just looking at profiles. I mean, do the work, right? So do the work, look at the profile, see who kind of speaks to you in a sense. Yeah, I just recently had a young woman who came to me through her insurance company. She's like, your profile spoke to me. I was like, I don't even know what it said. Like, so, but
Yeah,
sometimes
people
it
say that
does.
to
Like,
me sometimes too, and I'm like,
yeah.
good. I guess that's working. Yeah.
So for sure that, and then, are there free resources? Yes, there are free resources. I do feel like they are so tapped out right now.
I bet.
Um,
Yeah.
and the challenge with a lot of these free resources is that, they may have an opening in a month, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's consistent opening there.
Right.
And
Right.
you have to look at what you need in the moment. If someone is, in a place where they feel like their life, that they're in that self-harm and not sure if they can make it, obviously there's suicide help hotlines,
Right.
And reach out, right? So even if even if you can't get help, reach out to a friend, reach out to a loved one, right? So
Right.
that they can at least help you navigate that process, right? And then that person can help kind of look around the community for, the right kind of fit for you. And obviously there's psychiatrists, who prescribe medications. They generally don't do therapy. Psychologists, licensed social workers, licensed counselors. So there's a variety of people, and now that most of us are working virtually, like timing shouldn't be much of an issue, right? We're all generally fairly full, but I always slip in people wherever I have gaps. So
Yeah, I know all about that. That's why that's why we don't eat dinner early here anymore. But yeah, so
yeah,
yes, yes. So I think the bottom line really is that with that is that, don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think that whatever you need help with, whether it's help with your resume or help with your mental health or help with whatever it is, right? Your weight loss plan, your relationship, your, marriage counseling, whatever it is, right? Keep bringing your kids in, for therapy if they're not handling it well, handling the situation well and need help. So yeah, just not being afraid to ask for help or feeling that you're not weak because you need help. You're not, there's nothing bad about needing help. We all need help. And honestly, I just really think the world would be a better place if more people would get help for a lot of things. I think there are a lot of people walking around who are suffering needlessly and also causing other people to suffer around them because they don't reach out and get all of this help that is available. Well, thank you, Catarina, so much for being here today. This was very helpful. I feel way better today going forward the rest of my day. So I hope that everyone watching this gets something out of it. Catarina is in our group now in Smart Chicks Career Club. So you might see her in there now and again. She's a member with us. And also, I am going to put, of course, links of how to reach Catarina out in the group. So, if you want to reach her, either, I guess, can you give me a link? Either just we'll do both your therapy practice and your coaching simultaneously, or the links you gave me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because
Okay.
yeah, the link that my website is strictly for my coaching business. But email, I'm available
Right.
at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I will get Catarina's contact information out there. And if you have any questions, just please let us know and we will get back to you. But thanks again so much, Catarina, and have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
rest of the day to you and everyone watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.